There are very few movies that people describe the same way. Ask someone about comedy, and they'll tell you what makes them laugh. Ask someone about thriller, and they'll tell you about the twist. But ask people about Graves of the Fireflies, and the response is almost always identical. Masterpiece, never watching again though. Being stabbed will be less painful than this. For nearly 4 decades, audiences have called it one of the most heartbreaking films ever made. Not because it's shocking, not because it's violent, but because it forces us to confront a truth most people spend their lives avoiding. We take everything for granted. The people we love, the food on our table, the roof over our heads, even tomorrow itself. And no movie exposes that reality more brutally than Graves of the Fireflies. Released in 1988, Graves of the Fireflies follows Seita and his young sister Setsuko during the final months of World War II in Japan. After the city is devastated by air raids, the 2 children are left to survive on their own as the world around them slowly collapses. On the surface, it sounds like a war movie, and technically it is. But reducing Graves of the Fireflies to a war film misses what makes it so powerful. Because the movie isn't really interested in military strategy, it's not interested in politics, it's not even interested in the war itself. The war is simply the force that strips everything away. What the film actually studies is loss. What happens when every comfort you ever known disappears. What happens when the things you assume would always exist suddenly don't. One of the strangest things about being human is how quickly we adapt. Something can feel extraordinary one day and completely normal the next. Think about your own life. When was the last time you felt grateful for running water or electricity or having food in your refrigerator? Probably not recently. Not because you're ungrateful, but because these things have become invisible. They're part of the background. They're expected. And that's exactly how life works for Seita. At the beginning of the film, he had a home. He had a family, had food, had security. None of these things seem remarkable. They're simply normal. Then one by one, they're taken away. And suddenly, the things he barely noticed becomes the only things that matters. The movie forces us to recognize a painful reality. The most valuable parts of our lives are often the things we think about the least. Most tragedies happen all at once. A disaster strikes, a character dies, the audience cries, the end. But Graves of the Fireflies understands something terrifying about real life. Loss rarely arrives all at once. It arrives in pieces. A little less food, a little less hope, a little less stability, a little less energy, a little less time. The film doesn't hit you with a single devastating moment. Instead, it slowly removes every layer of normal life. And that's why it feels so authentic. Because that's how people actually experience hardship. Not through one giant catastrophe, but through 1,000 small losses that gradually reshape their world. By the time the audience realizes how serious the situation has become, it's already too late. Just like Seita. One reason the movie remains so widely discussed is because Seita isn't a perfect protagonist. He's loving, he's determined, he genuinely wants to protect his sister, but he's also flawed. And that's what makes him human. Throughout the film, Seita repeatedly chooses isolation. He believes he can solve every problem himself. He believes he can protect Setsuko on his own. He believes asking for help is somehow worse than enduring hardship. At first, this feels admirable. Independence is often celebrated. Self-reliance sounds heroic. But the movie quietly challenges that idea. Because eventually, independence turns into isolation. And isolation turns into desperation. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that needing other people isn't weakness. It's part of being human. Nobody survives alone. The tragedy isn't just that Seita loses support. It's that he slowly distances himself from it. If Seita represents responsibility, Setsuko represents innocence. She doesn't understand the larger forces destroying her world. She doesn't understand war. She doesn't understand economy. She doesn't understand politics. She only understands what's directly in front of her. She's hungry. She's scared. She wants her brother. That's it. And because her perspective is so simple, it becomes impossible to ignore what truly matters. Food, safety, love, connection, the essentials. As adults, we spend enormous amounts of energy chasing things we believe will make us happy. More money, more success, more recognition, more achievements. Yet Setsuko reminds us that happiness often begins with much simpler things. Things so basic we forget they matter until they're gone. The film's title contains an entire message. Fireflies lives incredibly short lives. For a brief moment, they illuminate the darkness, then they disappear. That's exactly what makes them beautiful, and that's exactly what makes them tragic. The fireflies aren't just symbol for Setsuko, they're a symbol for everything temporarily. Childhood, family, friendships, life itself. The movie asks us to consider a difficult truth. What if the things you love most are valuable precisely because they don't last forever? What if their temporary nature is what gives them meaning? Because everything, eventually, every family dinner ends. Every childhood ends. Every relationship ends. Every life ends. The question isn't whether these things will disappear. The question is whether we'll appreciate them while they're still here. People often call Graves of the Fireflies the saddest movie ever made. I think that's only half true. Yes, it's devastating. Yes, it's heartbreaking. But sadness isn't the reason the film stays with people. The reason it stays with people is because it changes what they notice. After watching it, ordinary things stop feeling ordinary. A meal feels different. A conversation feels different. A normal day feels different. Because the movie reminds us of something we already know but constantly forget. Nothing is guaranteed. Not our home, not our routines, not the people we love, not even tomorrow. And maybe that's why Graves of the Fireflies continue to resonate with audience decades later. And even me. It isn't teaching us how to survive a war. It's teaching us how to value the life we already have before it's gone. If you enjoy these type of videos, be sure to like and subscribe. And until then, peace and love.